Opendoor stock closed Tuesday's session at $723, up 31 cents, or about 4.5% on the day. It's the final trading session before the company's highly anticipated third-quarter earnings event, the so-called Financial Open House, which takes place tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific Time. The tone today was one of cautious optimism. Traders who had taken profits after Monday's slide seemed to rotate back in, giving the stock a solid rebound right before the big event. And the mood across social channels reflected that shift. CEO Kaz Nejatian himself jumped onto X to remind investors that the Q&A portal for the event would be closing in just a few hours, encouraging people to submit their final questions and upvotes before the cutoff. His post read, "Last call for questions and upvotes at investor.opendoor.com. Our Q&A portal closes in about 5 hours. We'll be answering questions live during tomorrow's Financial Open House at 2 p.m. Pacific. See you there." That single message carried weight, because it underscored what makes tomorrow's call different. It's not a traditional earnings presentation with a dry deck of slides and scripted answers. This open house format is designed to feel more transparent, a two-way conversation with investors, hosted by the new leadership team. And it comes at an important moment. Let's remember, the guidance Opendoor issued back in August set expectations extremely low. Management projected revenue between $800 million and $875 million, roughly half the prior quarter's $1.6 billion. They also forecast an adjusted EBITDA loss between $21 and $28 million, reversing the brief profitability they had achieved in Q2. So investors already know the headline numbers aren't going to be spectacular. What matters tomorrow is the tone, the direction, the outlook, and how the new leadership under Kaz Nejatian plans to steer the ship. Today's rebound, that 4.5% gain, tells me investors are starting to look beyond the short-term pain and toward the possibility of a reset story. Now, part of that optimism is being fueled by Eric Jackson, a longtime supporter of Opendoor and a visible voice in the retail investing community. Jackson has been hinting that he expects, in his words, the dream team to shine during tomorrow's call. He's referring to the new CEO Kaz Nejatian, the returning founders, and the re-energized board that now includes some of the most experienced operators in prop tech. Jackson's tone has been clear. This isn't about Q3 numbers, it's about demonstrating that the new leadership can communicate a credible plan for 2026 and beyond. That kind of narrative can often matter more than the immediate results. So, what's happening here is a classic pre-event alignment, management engaging the community, influential investors setting expectations, and the market stabilizing just in time for the spotlight. Let's break down what's likely driving today's move, and what to expect tomorrow. First, event engagement. Opendoor's Financial Open House format is interactive, and retail investors know it. The last-minute Q&A push on X creates buzz. It drives traffic to investor.opendoor.com and reminds people that they can actually submit questions to be answered live. That sense of inclusion has real psychological power. When people feel like they have a voice, they're more inclined to re-enter the trade. Second, sentiment reset. After yesterday's sell-off to the 690 range, a rebound to 723 feels like a natural correction. It's what traders call the pre-event coil, volatility tightening before a catalyst. In simple terms, buyers and sellers are repositioning so that when the news hits, the stock has room to run either direction. Third, market context. Broader markets were mixed but slightly positive today, with investors rotating back into beaten-down names after Monday's valuation scare in AI and growth. That tailwind helped Opendoor's rebound, but it wasn't the main driver. The focus really is on tomorrow's narrative. Now, let's zoom out and look at the story the market is trying to price in. Opendoor isn't just a company that buys and sells homes. It's trying to build a digital platform for residential real estate, a space that's still largely offline. The vision has always been to make buying or selling a house as easy as trading a stock. But execution matters, and the past year has been rough. High mortgage rates, cooling demand, and older inventory have all pressured margins. That's why tomorrow's call is so crucial. It's not about pretending those problems don't exist. It's about explaining how the company has adapted, and why the new leadership believes the model is still scalable and profitable over time. Let's walk through 5 key things investors will be watching on the call tomorrow. Number 1. Revenue and margins. Will they come in near the top of their guided range? Even a modest beat on revenue or a smaller-than-expected EBITDA loss would suggest that operations are stabilizing faster than feared. Number 2. Inventory mix. How much of the lower margin, older inventory has been cleared out? Management previously said those homes were weighing on profits. If they're nearly gone, it means newer, higher margin acquisitions will drive future quarters. Number 3. Operational efficiency. Are they reducing per home transaction costs? Kaz's background at Shopify suggests he's obsessed with efficiency, so investors will be looking for measurable improvements in unit economics. Number 4. Strategic vision. This will be the most closely watched part. Investors want to know if Opendoor remains a pure iBuyer, or if it's evolving into a broader platform model, maybe connecting buyers, sellers, and agents in a way that scales without heavy balance sheet risk. And number 5. Capital position. With the housing market still soft, liquidity is key. Any reassurance about runway, cash on hand, and the ability to self-fund operations will boost confidence. Those are the 5 checkpoints to listen for. But here's what's unique about this setup. Unlike most earnings seasons, where expectations are scattered, this time the bar is set extremely low. Analysts already assume a revenue dip, a loss, and flat guidance. So the market's reaction tomorrow won't depend solely on the numbers, it will depend on the gap between fear and reality. If results are even slightly better than feared, or if Kaz delivers a confident, articulate roadmap, we could see sentiment shift sharply. Remember, Opendoor has a high short interest and strong retail following. That's a recipe for volatility, and potentially a relief rally if tone and execution align. Now, let's talk about Kaz Nejatian himself for a moment. He's been CEO for just a month of the quarter being reported, so the Q3 numbers are not a reflection of his management. But this call is his first chance to set the tone. Kaz spent years at Shopify, where he led product and operations. That background matters because Shopify's culture is about empowering small operators through automation and transparency, the same principles that can modernize real estate. If he brings that mentality to Opendoor, we could see a cultural reset within the company. More focus, more discipline, and clearer messaging. And he's already communicating differently. Today's X post wasn't corporate or stiff. It was conversational. It invited engagement. It humanized the company. That's exactly the tone you want heading into a live, investor-facing event. Let's also not overlook the symbolic timing of tomorrow's open house. November 6th, a Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific Time. It's framed as a community event rather than a closed-door briefing. That's deliberate. It's the leadership saying, "We're here to talk, not hide." Compare that to last year, when communication felt reactive. This time, they're taking control of the narrative. That shift alone can change how institutional investors and analysts perceive the company. Transparency builds credibility, and credibility attracts capital. So where does that leave us tonight? The stock's rebound to 723 puts it right back into the middle of its recent range. It's not overheated, and it's not oversold. It's balanced, which makes tomorrow's reaction purely about fundamentals and tone. If the company delivers a credible message, this could mark the beginning of a sentiment turnaround. And even if the results themselves are still soft, markets often move on direction, not perfection. It's worth remembering that Opendoor has already done much of the hard work this year, trimming costs, selling through aged inventory, and focusing on efficiency. The groundwork for recovery is in place. What we need now is clarity on how the team plans to scale again without reigniting risk. My personal take is that tomorrow's call has asymmetric potential. The downside from here feels limited, because expectations are so low. The upside, though, could be meaningful if management articulates a clean, credible path forward. I expect Kaz Nejatian to strike a confident but grounded tone. He'll probably emphasize that Q3 was a transition quarter, acknowledge the macro headwinds, and highlight how the team is positioning for a more stable housing environment in 2026. If he does that, and if Eric Jackson's dream team sentiment proves right, we could see this stock reclaim its recent highs or even retest the $8 range in the short term. To sum it up, today's rebound isn't a random bounce. It's a sign that investors are positioning ahead of a potentially narrative-defining moment. The engagement from Kaz Nejatian, the optimism from Eric Jackson, and the setup into tomorrow's event all point to a company that's regaining confidence. Tomorrow's financial open house is more than just an earnings call. It's an opportunity to reintroduce Opendoor to the market, to show that it's not just surviving the housing slowdown, but evolving through it. And whether you're long-term bullish or just watching the tape, this is one of those moments that can redefine sentiment for months to come. So as we wrap up this pre-earnings session, remember this. Low expectations create room for surprise. Engaged leadership builds trust. And transparency, when done right, is the best catalyst of all. I'll be watching closely tomorrow, ready to see if the open house really does mark a new chapter for Opendoor and its investors. This is Opendoor's final countdown, the moment where the new dream team steps into the spotlight. We'll find out tomorrow if this reset becomes the start of the climb.